if I were to say, you know, despite the differences in our skin color, despite the differences in our skin color, we are both American. Despite the differences in our language, we are both human. These are things that are considered ways to transcend classifications. So, have trans people been classified as an other? Well, I mean, yes, they have, because I literally just said it. Trans people. So, Gregory H. Stanton wrote down a 10-step guide to what a genocide is. And we are going to use that guide to determine, and we've done this video before, but we're going to do it again because there are people who have been responding to the video I did about Trump's words about trans people saying, oh, that's not a genocide. So, all right, Fathermucker, we are going to actually go over the 10 steps to genocide and figure out exactly what step we're on. And can we agree that if we are sufficiently close to step 10, that we are in fact dealing with that thing? Good! I'm glad we can agree. Let's get to the fan art section, because it's the one bit of levity that we're going to have before we get into anything else. Hey, good looking. How you doing? Dude, not interested in quiet fake furry bait. I wasn't talking to you. I was speaking to the lady. Y'all, why Hole-chan? Why Hole-chan? Why you do this? Why you do this? This one's from Sylvia Silica. Only the worst of ideas late at night, folks. Only the worst of ideas. The next one we have is from Ketatuli, and it says, I won't stay down much longer. Kiss Me, Kill Me by Jerry Terry. It's a song lyric. Contact the AI. Part of Suris is preventing Suris from hurting you. Well, thank you very much, Ketululi, for that. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, let me know by dropping it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that all said, if you haven't hit the like button and subscribed, maybe consider doing that because, oh boy, we're getting into some awkward shit today. What is genocide? Let's start with a Merriam-Webster definition. Genocide, the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. Okay, now what about the United Nations definition of genocide? The definition contained in Article 2 of the Convention describes genocide as a crime committed with the intent to destroy national, ethnic, racial, or religious groups in whole or in part. Now, here's the thing. You and I might not agree that trans people belong in any of these categories. I would argue that if somebody were to try to exterminate all gay people, get the firing squads and just start killing them left and right, they would not be a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. But that would still be a genocide. And you and I can agree on that, right? Okay, cool. If we can agree on that, then we can agree that just the definition alone is not enough. If we can agree that if somebody were to try to hunt down every gay person in the world and attempt to wipe them all out, if we can agree that's a genocide, then we agree that these definitions are lacking in and of themselves. They are lacking on their own. So it'd still be a genocide since it's extermination of population whole or in part? Yep. Now, is genocide the moment that we have the firing squads aimed at all of the minority groups and we are systematically killing them? Is that genocide? Yes, that is genocide, but can genocide take place before then? How did genocide take place in Nazi Germany? The systematic destruction of the Jewish and other minority populations in Germany did not take place as a result instantly of Hitler deciding, kill the gays, kill the Jews. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. It was a slow process. It was a process that had several steps to it that ended in the camps. The camps and the firing squads and the death marches, that's the end. So what about the beginnings? Well, let's go ahead and go through the 10 stages of genocide, and maybe together we'll actually figure out some stuff together. You, me, and a little bit of research. Okay, so we already agree that the dictionary definition and the Webster's, the UN definition are not enough, because by themselves, those definitions only really cover the end result, and even then, those definitions do not include all types of groups of people. They attempt to, but people who are grouped based on sexuality, people who are grouped based on gender identity, same thing. So let's read here. You and me. Genocide is a process that develops in 10 stages that are predictable but not inexorable. At each stage, preventative measures can stop it. The process is not linear. Stages may occur simultaneously. Logically, later stages must be preceded by earlier stages, but all stages continue to operate throughout the process. The first one is classification. All cultures have categories to distinguish people into us and them. This is done by ethnicity, race, religion, nationality, and of course, by other things like gender identity or even caring about gender identity. I'm going to add that on to the writing there because, again, as previously established, we can agree that a genocide, if I were to try to kill all gay people, that would be a genocide of gay people. So we can agree on that. Distinguishing things like German and Jew, Hutu and Tutsi, bipolar societies that lack mixed categories, such as Rwanda and Burundi, are the most likely ones to have genocides. The main preventative measure at this early stage is to develop universalistic institutions that transcend ethnic or racial divisions. Ones that actively promote tolerance and understanding, and that promote classifications that transcend these divisions. The Roman Catholic Church could have played this role in Rwanda had it been riven by the same ethnic cleavages as had it not been riven by the same ethnic cleavages as Rwandan society. Promotion of a common language in countries like Tanzania has also promoted transcendent national identity. This search for common ground is vital in the early prevention of genocide. What's an example of this, right? If I were to say, you know, despite the differences in our skin color, we are both American. Despite the differences in our language, we are both human. These are things that are considered ways to transcend classifications. So, have trans people been classified as an other? Well, I mean, yes, they have, because I literally just said it. Trans people. People who are trans versus people who are cis. Now, there's a counter argument that somebody might make where they're like, hey, actually, trans people said it first because they called us cis. Well, if you stop being a sissy for more than 12 seconds, you'll understand that actually, no, cis and trans are just descriptive categories. These categories only matter when we make them matter. Honestly, the fact that we even have to have a distinction, hey, that's not a woman, that's a trans woman, it is kind of dumb. Like, no, that's just a woman, a person who identifies as a woman. Are they trans? Sure, as a descriptive category, but classifying them as a different type of person, well, that's what gets us to part one. We need to see people as other than us for a genocide to begin. We could agree that we're at step one then, right? Okay, cool. Let's move on to symbolization. We give names or other symbols to the classifications. We name people Jews, or that other word that people don't like us using anymore, despite Disney using it, or distinguish them by colors or dress, and adopt these symbols to members of groups. Classification and symbolization are universally human and do not necessarily result in genocide unless they lead to dehumanization. When combined with hatred, symbols may be forced upon unwilling members of pariah groups, the yellow star for Jews under Nazi rule, the blue scar for people in the eastern zone of the in Cambodia. So these are things like the trans flag, right? That is a symbol that represents trans people. It would be very easy, and I'm not saying that I have anything against the trans flag, I don't, but it would be very easy for someone to take the trans flag and start saying that anybody who is trans had to wear a trans pin. And this could be seen as a type of solidarity in the beginning and then turned more into the yellow star scenario later on. But as it says, these types of symbols and classifications being used on people, they don't necessarily mean genocide on their own. But the fact that these symbols already exist and you can easily picture them in your head means we're already here. It says to combat symbolization, hate symbols can be legally forbidden. as can hate speech. Group marking like gang clothing or tribal scarring can be outlawed as well. The problem is that legal limitations will fail if unsupported by popular cultural enforcement. Though Hutu and Tutsi were forbidden words in Burundi until the 80s, code words replaced them. If widely supported, however, denial of symbolization can be powerful, as it was in Bulgaria, where the government refused to supply enough yellow badges and at least 80% of Jews did not wear them, depriving the yellow star of its significance as a Nazi symbol for the Jews. How's it going, Faye NB? How you doing? Number 3, discrimination. This is, so we already know we're on stage 1 and 2. Discrimination. A dominant group uses law, custom, and political power to deny the rights of other groups. Holy gee howdy! How many laws have been passed and pushed forward recently that relate directly to trans people? Let me see here. Amount of anti-trans laws. 272 bills have been put forward against LGBTQ people, which includes trans people. 272. Texas has over 10 bills on its own. And these bills, this is all 2023. These are not bills from last year. These are all bills from 2023. There's a few here that have been filed late 2022, but most of these are 2023, it looks like. I don't know, guys. Have we hit stage 3? Have a dominant group of people been using law and political power to deny the rights of other groups? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe. Just maybe. The powerless group may or may not be accorded full civil rights, voting rights, or even citizenship in some cases. The dominant group is driven by an exclusionary ideology that would deprive less powerful groups of their rights, like the rights to trans medical care. Oh boy, howdy, gee willikers. Dang. Looks like we're on step 3. Do we need to even continue? This legitimizes the victimization of weaker groups. Advocates of exclusionary ideologies are often charismatic, expressing resentments of their followers, attracting support from the masses. Examples include the Nuremberg Laws of 1935 in Nazi Germany, which stripped Jews of their German citizenship and prohibited their employment by the government and of universities. Denial of citizenship to the Rohingya Muslim minority in Burma is a current example. So, revoking of citizenship can be a way that this discriminates against people, that this hurts people. But not necessarily. All you need is a dominant group using law and political power to deny the rights of other groups. 272 bills. 272 bills. Next is dehumanization. One group denies the humanity of the other group. Oh, just wait until we get into this one. Members of it are equated with animals. I don't know. Have we ever watched a Matt Walsh video where he's done that? Probably a few. Vermin, insects, or diseases. Social contagion, anyone? Dehumanization overcomes the normal human revulsion against murder. At this stage, hate propaganda in print and on hate radios is used to vilify the victim group. Yeah, this just sounds like Candace Owens, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Alex Jones. This just sounds like them. This just sounds like the stuff they've been doing for years. The majority group is taught to regard the other group as less than human and even alien to their society. They're indoctrinated to believe that we are better off without them. The powerless group can become so depersonalized that they're actually given numbers rather than names, as the Jews were in death camps. They're equated with filth, impurity, and immorality. Hate speech fills the propaganda of official radio, newspaper, and speeches. Guys, we're obviously at this stage. Trans people have been equated with filth and impurity and immorality for the last fucking decade, and it's only been ramping up more and more as the GOP gets more comfortable calling everybody who's trans some kind of sexual predator or pedophile. To combat dehumanization, incitement to genocide should not be confused with protected speech. Genocidal societies lack constitutional protection for countervailing speech and should be treated differently than democracies. Well, we're basically fucked in that regard. Let's go to the next one! Now we get to organization. Genocide is always organized, usually by the state, often using militias to provide deniability of state responsibility. An example is the Sudanese government support and arming of Janjaweed in Darfur. Sometimes organization is informal, like Hindu mobs led by the local RSS militants during the Indian partition, or decentralized, like jihadist terrorist groups. Special army units or militia are often trained and armed. Arms are purchased by states and militias, often in violation of the UN arms embargoes, to facilitate these acts of genocide. States organize secret police to spy on, arrest, torture, and murder people suspected of opposition of political leaders. Special training is given to murderous militia and special army killing units. Alrighty, so you may initially think that we don't have that happening in the States, but I would like to point you to organizations like the KKK and the Proud Boys. Independent militias that have been making their way to every single instance of a trans pride event, or even better, going to drag shows to try to threaten people with violence. Almost as if we are at number 5, because that has been normalized completely. So let's go ahead and get to the next one. Polarization. Extremists drives groups apart. Hate groups broadcast polarizing propaganda. Motivations for targeting a group are indoctrinated through mass media. Laws may forbid intermarriage or social interaction. Extremist terrorism targets moderates, intimidating and silencing the center. Moderates from the perpetrator's own group are most able to stop the genocide, and so they are usually the first to be arrested or killed. Leaders in targeted groups are the next ones to be arrested and murdered. The dominant group passes emergency laws or decrees that grant them total power over the targeted group. The laws erode fundamental civil rights and liberties, and targeted groups are disarmed to make them incapable of self-defense and to ensure that the dominant group has total control. I don't know how to tell you that One American News Network and Fox News and other news organizations like them basically make up the entirety of my argument for part 6. And in areas where they might fail, media organizations like the Daily Wire pick up the slack. See also making cross-dressing a felony? Yep. Polarization is the bread and butter of Fox News and the Daily Wire and other news organizations on the right like that. And one of the ways in which we get polarized greatly is by pushing people against trans folks and LGBT folks, trying to call them, as I've said before, predators constantly. So would it be safe to say we're at stage 6? Well, the only way to say we're not at stage 6 is to try to argue that Fox News and Daily Wire have not been spending a good bit of time making anti-trans pieces. As that is not the case, I hope we can agree that we are on, at the very least, stage 6. So let's get to stage 7. Preparation. Plans are made for genocidal killings. National or perpetrator group leaders plan the final solution to the Jewish, Armenian, Tutsi, or other targeted group. They often use euphemisms to cloak their intentions, such as referring to their goals as ethnic cleansing, purification, counterterrorism, cleaning up the homeless. I don't know if Matt Walsh ever did that recently. Oh, wait, we did a video on that. They build armies, buy weapons, and train their troops and militia. They indoctrinate the populace with fear of the victim group. Leaders often claim that if we don't kill them, they will kill us. Wow, that sounds like the Great Replacement theory. Genocide gets disguised as self-defense. Does anybody want to say anything about the current rhetoric about trying to protect real women's spaces from terrible trans people? Or do I have to bring up articles where TERFs have mentioned that? Acts of genocide are disguised as counterinsurgency if there is an ongoing arms conflict or civil war. There's a sudden increase in inflammatory rhetoric and hate propaganda, with the objective of creating fear of the other group. Political processes such as peace accords that threaten the total dominance of the genocidal group, or upcoming elections that may cost such as peace accords from their grip on total power, may actually trigger the genocide. Prevention of preparation may include arms embargoes and commissions to enforce them. That's never going to happen here in the United States because we suck off guns here. So that one's not happening. Well, I mean, number 7 is definitely happening to at least some degree. But now we get to persecution. Number 8. Victims are identified and separated out because of their ethnic or religious identity. Death lists are drawn up. In state-sponsored genocide, members of victim groups may be forced to wear identifying symbols. Their property is often expropriated, and sometimes they may even be segregated into ghettos, deported into concentration camps, or confined to a famine and then starved. They are deliberately deprived of resources such as water, food in order to slowly destroy them. Programs are implemented to prevent procreation through forced sterilization or abortions. Do I have to tell you how many Republicans have tried to advocate for the sterilization of trans people? Do I have to tell you that in Finland, they only literally just recently lifted the programs that said that trans people had to be sterilized in order to get any type of medical intervention? Do I have to tell you about any of that? Do I have to point out that that is shit that is actually happening? Do I have to do that? Or can you just accept that Republicans have been doing that? Or you can, you know what, do something even better. Look it up yourself. Have fun with that. There are plenty of nations that are guilty of trying to sterilize trans people. So the fact that the majority of trans people are forcibly sterilized when transitioning. So the Alliance Defending Freedom, that organization, has been defending state-enforced sterilization for transgender people over in Europe. And they've been doing that for a damn long time. In Japan, transgender people are still being sterilized. Do I need to talk? Do I need to go any further onto this one? Those policies already exist in other countries. I don't feel like I need to go further there. The first country to allow people to start reassigning their sex legally was Sweden, but it enforced a strict policy to sterilize anyone that actually transitioned. The grounds they used were that anybody who was mentally ill enough to transition was unfit to care for a child. And that is the rationale that is used in more than just Sweden. That is the language that is used in a genocide. That is exactly the language that is used there. And you can say stuff like, oh, but Dylan Mulvaney was able to go to the Grammys. And again, this is a multi-step process. And all it takes for this multi-step process to consign where it needs to is the right person being empowered to take all of these domino pieces and collapse them. Now, we aren't quite at number 9. Number 9 is the actual extermination. So, you know, that fucking thing that people keep telling me in my comment section is the only thing genocide is. That's actually the 9th step. That's one step below the last step. That's how far on the list of things that make up a genocide you have to get before you get to the extermination. But the final stage is interesting. The final one, I would argue, is actually happening right now. The final stage is denial. This is the stage that lasts throughout and always follows the genocide. It is amongst the surest indicators of further genocidal massacres. The perpetrators of genocide dig up the mass graves, they burn up the bodies, and they try to cover up the evidence and intimidate the witnesses. They deny that they've committed any crimes and often blame what happened on the victims. They block investigations to the crimes and continue to govern until driven from power by force. When they flee into exile, there they remain with impunity like Pol Pot or Idi Amin, unless they are captured and a tribunal is established to try them. But don't worry, guys. It isn't happening here. It's never been happening here. None of these steps have been taken by any groups in the United States. I don't know. The fact that the only step that I don't have an example of is step 9. If 9 out of 10 steps is not enough, if 9 out of 10 steps is not enough for you to call it a genocide, then I don't know what to do. The last time I covered this list, I think that we actually were sitting at like 6 or 7 steps done. We're at 9 now. we're a bit further along now. So the real question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there and just say, oh, that's so bad. Oh, God, I feel bad for the I feel bad for the trans people. Gee, I sure hope it never happens to me. Or are you going to actually take this time to go call your congressman and start bitching out their ears? That's their job. Their job is to listen to you. Are you going to just take all this and not go and talk to your friends about it? Are you going to take all this and just not go and try to get involved in local politics to see what little bits of power you can scrape away? Are you not going to use the platform that you have, if you happen to have one, to try to signal that this is a thing that's happening? Or are you just going to sit there? What can be done to save us at this point? The thing that can be done, the things that can be done are raising awareness. The things that can be done are talking to your local politicians. The things that can be done are getting in contact with representatives of your House, of your Senate, and of your local areas. You need to do more than just vote. Voting ain't enough. You need to be actively trying to establish those lines of communication. Be annoying. Be incessant. If we're going to do democracy, let's fucking do it right. And yeah, if you're trans, have a passport and a plan. The minute you see somebody like Donald Trump that is ready and willing to take away your rights, step back into the office, leave. Go and be safe. Unless you are the most heavily sheltered person in the most liberal district, go to where you are safe. Asher VT says also, buy and train how to use firearms to defend yourself and your country. That is another good thing to do. I don't know, if you want to be that person that just says, hey, you know, you're a liberal, you shouldn't lack guns. No, bullshit, get a gun. No, I'm dead fucking serious. Do yourself a favor. Get involved in local politics. Get involved in your local areas. Get in contact with the people who write your fucking laws. Their offices are likely local to you. You can visit them. And if you plan on staying, have a plan to keep yourself safe. Learn how to safely own and operate weaponry, and learn how to safely comport yourself with that weaponry. Go to a range, learn trigger discipline. It is better to know how to defend yourself and never be presented with the reason to do so than to be presented with a reason to do so and not know how. If you grow up and die never having to defend yourself, never having to see the worst of this come to pass, good. It's good that you learned the skill. Also, T, hello. Oh, well, but don't debate your existence with people. You exist. You are valid, and you are important. Let me know what you all think in the comments section below here. Hopefully, those of you who decided to throw all of those comments at me saying, actually, it's not a genocide, you're wrong. Okay, hopefully you've now been educated. I don't want to call you an idiot, but, you know, I'm going to think about it. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Please get involved somehow. Politically. Do more than just vote. Voting is literally the least you can do. There is more you can do besides that. Hit the like button if you haven't already, subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, everybody, insert end a video tagline here.